very sorry for this little bit technical, say, changes. In this hotel, we have everything, but we don't have like a rolling scene. When one people will say, then goes back, and another scene will be ready by that time. That's why you will see all these changes just in front of you. First of all, I want to say terima kasih banyak, Pak, for your very comprehensive explanation and taking us thinking how we can do our shopping if the program is so busy. For that, we have to sing only maybe after closing. My name is Ali Shrumarf, and I'm representing here UNESCO. UNESCO is one of the knowledge partners of this conference, and I got a privilege to introduce the first plenary speaker, and his biography already, as had been mentioned, you can find in the conference program on the page 19. And Professor Ajit Mohanty, actually, from one side, it's very easy to introduce him. Professor is a professor. You don't say very much. You can only say the professor had been famous with his work in the language area. For example, I know that many people know him very well, not only in India, but also in Nepal, because he is the author of the national policy, national multilingual education policy for Nepal, which is still, say, going on. He's very much welcome in the remote areas of India, especially in states like Odisha, with his studies and reaching the people, understanding how that living and endangered and almost forgotten languages actually had been used in daily life and for education. And he's very meticulous person to look after the attitudes, how people use these languages, because his background actually in psychology. And I don't know out of which idea he became founder and chief advisor for the National Multilingual Education Resource Consortium at Jawaharlal Nehru University. That will be maybe the first things what we will ask him to say. He's not listening. I will ask him again. Yes. In this time, I think we heard very good speeches for introduction, but I skipped some moments, and since we discussed about what will be the way forward after, and the trustees already urging us and inviting us to think about the next 12th Language and Development Conference, which is planned for 2017, I can tell you what will be happening between now and 2017. In UNESCO, we have an Asia Pacific Multilingual Education Committee, where we have more than 100 representatives of the different CSOs, UN agencies, partners, universities, who are meeting once in a quarter. They had a meeting yesterday, and they informed me that UNESCO is planning to have a next year in October, and to be precisely from 19 to 21st October in Bangkok, the big conference on language and education. And that comes in line when we're asking the UNESCO member states to come up with their national plans for Education 2030 agenda. And in line with that also, they asked me to announce that in February 7 to 9, there will be an interesting conference in Myanmar, in Mandalay. That will be 7 to 9, and they're going to discuss language policy and multilingual education. There is plenty more. That's why my suggestion for the trustees will be, why not we put on your website all this kind of announcement about the different multilingual or language and development related conferences, since you are the, say, big mover, and the small, say, rivers and small, say, water sources, etc., will benefit from your presence. Sir, ready? He is giving me privilege to say more things to you. Because he thinks he has 1 hour. Now it's less, because I am occupying that part of that 1 hour. We regarding the speaking points, UNESCO is not only about education, UNESCO is also about culture. And today morning I got from our culture specialist that certain statistics, and I really interested because UNESCO has a new release of the online atlas on the languages, on endangered languages, living languages, on almost lost and totally lost languages. And I discovered when people saying how many languages we speak, there is 7,102 exactly living languages. And among that, most of the languages you can find in Asia. It is 2,301 and 2,138 in Africa. But I should also tell you among these 7,000 something languages is 2,000 have less than 1,000 native speakers. And that now you can apply for the issues of development. I think we will be having a lot of, say, thoughts about this. Maybe you speak without technique. Not listening. Fine. And third is going to speak on the topic of multilingualism, education, English, and development, and asking himself and us whose development it will be, say, discovered. And in his speech, before he will start, I should tell you, we're also interested, since British Council is one of the major organizers of this conference, I was asking yesterday many people how many countries actually speak or use English as the major language. And today, again, our culture officer provided me data. It is 101 countries actually use English. And that is the most number of the countries for one language. The second one, it will be Arabic, which is 60 countries, then French, 51. By my name, you understand that my name looks like Russian because I brought up in Soviet Union. But originally I am from Uzbekistan. That's why my name looks like Russian name, Umarov. And I can tell you that Russian language is spoken only in 16 countries. Even we think it is more. I'm out of data.
A very good morning to all of you, and my apologies for the technological problem. You know, if you are using a Mac system in India, be careful about it. I thank the trustees and organizers of the conference and the British Council for this honor. I'm here to interrogate the role of English or any other dominant language for that matter in multilingual societies, and to show that the much talked about relationship between English and development may be true for some, but it's questionable for many. Again, problem with the technology. Can someone help? I'm not again.
You better speak.
Not able to move the slides.
I will do it for you. I think you need to go to pitch down this way. First. Here.
So I press this one now?
The right.
Oh, that right. Okay. All right. While we dwell on the question of development, it behooves remembering for ourselves that the notion of development needs to move away from simple economic indicators of income and consumption. It is more about freedom, choice, and participation, and most importantly, reduction of inequality and discrimination. I think there is a need to critically engage with with the much talked about relationship between English and development, English as a tool for development, business, science, media, and so on, English for a global world, triggering the mass paranoia of competition, English as a language of unity amid the apparent chaos of multilingual world, English as a gatekeeper to the heaven of the English-speaking countries, English and the force of English, which transforms to political imperatives in multilingual world. The repeated rhetorics of links between English and development and opportunities get reified into popular images and beliefs. You have only two of the many, many examples from the multilingual world. An English goddess in a village sought to be worshipped for better English for emancipation. The goddess now waits for a temple to come up. Then, since English is a gatekeeper to the better world, there are temples. I have shown one of them for visa gods or visa Bhagavan. There are, in fact, specialized gods and temples for American visa, British visa, European visa, visas to Australia, and so on. I am told a number of people in this conference couldn't be here because they failed to get Indian visa. Maybe the organizers next time would advise these people to pray Visa Bhagavan specialized for Indian visa. If you Google these gods, you'll get more than what I have in fact given you. When you look critically at the evidences linking language, or for that matter, French and other dominant languages, the purported relationship with aspects of development does not stand to close scrutiny. There is no clear relationship of English with development nor with national unity. Social identity theorists show how, in multilingual societies, some entrepreneurs of linguistic identities divide a multilingual society and then promote English for unity. In fact, at another level, English is shown to be linked to social stratification, elite formation, and exclusion of masses, all of which divide more than they unite. The role of English in cross-country migration has been questioned for linguicism and human rights violation. Whether and to what extent English can and does function as a lingua franca varies across different sociolinguistic contexts. I think we need to reflect on the dynamics of attitudinal differences in respect of English and the national languages in multilingual societies. There are two aspects of the development of such stance that I will briefly mention. One is how social educational exclusion of languages perpetuates disadvantage for many languages and advantage for the dominant ones. The second is the emergence of social class difference in the role of English as a cultural capital through early multilingual socialization. Hierarchy of power relations in respect of languages effectively leads to deprivation of many languages in favor of the dominant ones. Socioeconomic and educational neglect in the long run pushes languages out of significant domains of use, leading to their progressive impoverishment and weakness, which is used to justify further neglect. The vicious cycle perpetuates disadvantage. There is also a progressive differentiation across different socioeconomic classes as to how English functions in the mindset of children. Our studies on multilingual socialization of Indian children show different strategies through which upper class parents orient their children to use English mostly for scholastic achievement and individualistic self-construal, and how mother tongues are devalued as languages limited only to family domains. What I have shown here is a conceptualization of the hierarchical structure of languages in multilingual societies, where English occupies the most dominant language status. Vaidehi Ramanathan from the University of California wrote about English vernacular divide in education in India, and I have talked about a double divide, one between English and the major national languages in multilingual societies, and the other between these major languages called vernaculars and the indigenous tribal minority languages, with major gaps in the power of these groups of languages. In most multilingual societies, I should point out, there are many layers within each level of the double divide. Indian Constitution could not enforce a common system of schooling. Private, mostly English medium schools continued along with government or public schools. As a result, there is a range of private schools catering to different economic levels. These schools vary in their cost and quality. Some schools, like the famous Doon School of India, are considered prestigious, high-cost schools. There are now many very low-cost and low-quality English medium schools in rural areas where children neither learn English nor the subject matters. I call them doom schools, where children and their education are bound to be doomed. The government schools are vernacular or major state language medium schools which offer mother tongue medium education to majority language children and imposed submersion education in a non-mother tongue language to tribal and minority language children. Thus, English medium schools have led to a new caste system in India. Look up the matrimonial columns in newspapers. There are solicitations for caste-based marriage proposals, and also many which solicit a bride educated in English medium schools. If you open newspaper on any of these days, the matrimonial column, you would locate the proposals which solicit a bride with English medium education. So with the with English medium schools of various kinds, we have school divides corresponding to social divides. The private schools are fee-paying schools varying in their quality and cost, catering to different social strata. I have labeled 3 broad types of private schools, labeled A, B, and C, corresponding to different socioeconomic levels. The poor, who cannot afford even the cheapest of the English medium schools, send their children to public or government schools, which are major regional language mother tongue schools for most children and non-mother tongue schools for indigenous, tribal, minority children. As I said, almost all the private schools are English medium schools, whereas the government schools teach English as a language subject. In fact, some state governments have now started English medium schools which have failed for various reasons. We have undertaken studies of the social practices, the school practices in the classrooms in respect of English and negotiation of language barrier that the children face in these schools. In elite, upper class English medium schools, the school practices and classroom transactions are quite westernized. Languages other than English are not allowed. Parents do support teaching of English through their own efforts, private tuitions, coachings, and other devices, including availability of additional books and reading material. In contrast, poor quality English medium schools only appear to be English medium. Cosmetic anglicization, English prayers in chorus, welcoming good morning in chorus, often even when you visit late in the afternoon. Parents do not know English and cannot afford private tuition. Teachers are also extremely poor in English. Teaching English is very different in schools with large proportion of tribal children. Here I have reported our studies with the Kond and the Saura tribal children who speak Kui and Saura languages respectively. In these classrooms, teachers read from the text a single word or a sentence at a time and immediately translate the same to elaborate in simple Odia. Occasionally, Odia is the dominant language of the state of Orissa, where we conducted our study with the Kond and the Saura tribes. And they would teachers would occasionally use Kui or Saura, the language, the home language of the tribal children, if they happen to know it. Not many teachers actually know the tribal languages. The classrooms are characterized by oral practices to have children memorize English alphabets and numbers in sequence. Some textbook words in English occasionally appear. The routine conversational exchanges are quite common. The teacher will drill the conversations, what is your name? And the child would say, my name is so and so. What is your father's name? The child would say the father's name. In one of the classrooms that I visited, I asked the children, what is your father's name? And all the children in the class said, my father's name is Dhani. Because they didn't really understand what it meant. They had drilled whatever example the teacher had given them. Apparently the teacher had told them, my father's name is Dhani as an example. So that's the kind of transaction that goes on. Now, copying from the blackboard is again common. Alphabets traced repeatedly while alphabet names are spoken aloud and then some words. Evidently, there was no serious effort in teaching English to the tribal children because the tribal children were already struggling with Odia, which is the dominant language of the state, but not the home language of the tribal children. Therefore, the teachers decided, and I think that's probably strategically correct, decided to focus on learning of Odia, which was a language which was available in the surrounding, in the ecology, rather than focus on the second level divide with English language. So teachers made very symbolic effort only to meet the curricular requirements for English without any serious attempt at teaching and learning of a foreign language. There was lack of substantive learning targets, which was reflected in the casual assessment that the teachers gave. One of the teachers told me when I visited the ashram school in Kandhamal in Odisha, which is the Kond tribal area where the children speak Kui. The teacher said, sir, these children do not even understand Odia, which is the language of the state. What English will they understand? We somehow manage by using sometimes Kui and sometimes Odia in English classrooms. Luckily, they are not failed if they fail in English. So teachers' priority, obviously, is negotiating the vernacular other divide, deferring negotiation of English. I'm sorry for the change in the slides. The change to the window system actually changed the formatting of the slides. Now, whom do English medium schools teach and whom do they cheat? Well, having presented the data on how English is transacted in different types of schools, the Doon schools and the Doom schools, and also the majority language schools for tribal children, I think we all know the answer. The poor quality, low-cost English medium schools do not and cannot teach English, and for that matter, other subject matters. A rough, uncorroborated survey shows that parents spend approximately 5 to 10% of income to meet the cost of private English medium schools. The expenditure of lower strata parents in percentage of income terms is indeed higher than their high strata counterparts, who of course spend a lot more on home-based support. But the burden of expenditure is huge for the lower strata parents where children do not get the returns and they are cheated. In one of the schools which opened in the outskirts of a small town in Paralakhemdi district, Gajpati district in Odisha, which is dominated by the Saura tribe, the school, English medium school, opened, I think, around 1998. And the parents were happy sending their children to school. And the teachers kept on giving the feedback to the parents that their children were doing well, getting high marks, 60, 80%, 90%, and so on. And that went on for 10 years until then the evaluation was internal to the school, until in grade 10, the children had to appear the common high school examination, 100% of the children failed. And parents were so angry, having been cheated for all these 10 years, they ransacked the school, broke the windows, and created a lot of trouble. So some English medium programs started by the state government recently, called success schools, have in fact failed. English medium schools are in great demand because of the popular belief that they are better schools. We have conducted studies to compare English medium schools with mother tongue medium schools in different parts of India. All the studies show that when you control for quality of schooling and the socioeconomic status of the parents, mother tongue medium children show better academic achievement, show better understanding of the concepts in subjects like science and mathematics, and they show better skills in language use. I have mentioned some of our studies and some of our own students. There are at least half a dozen studies by other Indian researchers which I have not recorded here. There are a couple of studies which show, and this is important, which show that mother tongue medium children who learn English at grade 4, that is 4 years after they start schooling, may show poorer English reading, writing, and comprehension skills compared to the English medium counterparts at the beginning of the program, that is at grade 4 level. Whereas the English medium children obviously do better because they have been learning English from grade 1. But in 5 years of learning of English, that is by grade 9, the mother tongue medium children catch up with their English medium counterparts. So when you compare them at grade 9 level, the differences disappear, and they have performed the mother tongue medium children who learned English only from grade 4. By grade 9, they catch up with their English medium counterparts who have learned English right from the beginning. So it seems when children learn their mother tongue and then learn English after 3 to 4 years, they learn English at a faster rate, and in about 5 years achieve the same level of competence in English as the English medium children exposed to English from grade 1, except, of course, in verbal fluency, in which the English medium schools were better. Early development of mother tongue proficiency comes at no cost to effective learning of English and other languages, as Jim Cummins has suggested in his linguistic interdependence theory. So who gets the benefits? The upper and middle class children who already have a lot of material, attitudinal, and socialization support for English get more, and the poorer ones who do not have such support get less of the benefits. The Matthew effect studies show that clearly, number of studies on that. The social class, rural-urban differences are also found to increase over number of years of schooling, showing what some Indian researchers call the broomstick phenomenon. The widening gap between the poor and the rich, the rural and urban children in terms of English competence. So it's not only the Matthew effect in the beginning, the English-rich children are having more or better English, but also the differences seem to be increasing. A large number of disadvantaged children whose parents aspire for a better future for their children end up acquiring neither English nor academic competence. They do not get the benefits and continue to have limited opportunities despite being in English medium schools. Nehru was concerned, our first Prime Minister, was concerned about English knowing caste in India and their distinction from the masses. Now, there are English knowing subcastes, excellent English, average English, and poor English in different groups. So, whose development does English promote? English has been called a killer language for its relationship with other languages, the subtractive effect as well as negative impact on linguistic diversity. But it doesn't have to be so. English can contribute. I have a cold and throat problem, so you have to excuse me for that. English can contribute being a part of the multilingual mosaic of the post-colonial societies. Learning of English needs to be relocated in the framework of mother tongue-based multilingual education. I cannot elaborate on the framework, but let me share that experiments on MLE projects, including our own multilingual education plus projects or plus intervention that Professor Minati Panda and I implemented, have been positively evaluated. So the NCERT evaluation of the Odisha program and the NMRC's evaluation of the program in Andhra Pradesh and Odisha, two states in India which have started experimental project of mother tongue based multilingual education, have been positively evaluated, not only for better academic achievement that is promoted in these schools, but also for better community attitude and teacher attitude, better classroom participation of children. What is more important is in Odisha, for example, English is introduced in grade 3, whereas almost in all other states, English is introduced in grade 1. It has been found out that even in the mother tongue medium, mother tongue based multilingual education programs, children seem to be doing well in English. Let me caution, add a note of caution telling you that even if the programs show that the mother tongue based multilingual education children seem to be doing better than their counterparts who are taught in a language other than their home language, the level of performance is still not adequate, somewhere around 40 to 50%, not beyond that. Therefore, perhaps not too much of an optimism. It's too early to have that sense of optimism. But one can hope that as we streamline the program of multilingual education, mother tongue based multilingual education for children, perhaps things will improve. Let me also add that considering the success of the initial projects, Odisha, which is one of the tribal states with nearly 23% tribal population in the state, has increased the number of languages in which multilingual education programs are offered. Out of 22 tribal languages which are now recognized by the government, in 19 languages, the mother tongue-based multilingual program have already started. Recently, that last year, we, NMRC collaborated with the government of Odisha in developing a policy for mother tongue-based multilingual education in the state. Odisha happens to be the first state in which such a policy has come up. I have sent many of you whom I know copies of the policy document, but those of you who would like to have a copy of the policy, you can always ask NMRC or one of us for a copy of the policy. Now let me conclude, not with take-home answers for you, but some questions. The question is about choice for English and its role in development. Is this choice engineered by imperialistic design, as Robert Philipson showed 23 years back? Is propagation of English agentic? Attributing agency has been seen as undermining the freedom of language users to choose. Progressively, the process of expansion of English seems to have become autonomous, appearing to be agentless. Perhaps we have moved from the linguistic imperialism to the agencies such as the goddess of English, who has gone underground, leaving us to believe that there is this ghost of English which has captured popular imagination all over the world. Whatsoever may be the nature of agency, choice of English as a language of development is an imposed imperative that benefits some, disadvantages many. Yes, the common users of languages have freedom to choose. But for a free choice to exist and to be exercised, there has to be viable alternatives and full information, knowledge, and understanding the implications of such a choice. Otherwise, the choice of English is like that of a visually handicapped person who chooses to walk right through red light. Is such a choice informed? Is it free? And is it desirable? That is the question which each one of us has to ask and to answer for our own selves. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think it is one of the inspiring, provocative, almost breathtaking with some facts as being a UNESCO functionary. Some of the slides really shocked me, but I think you did this for purpose, no? But as you see, on the example of English as a medium of instruction, which actually makes the life decision for children who are going to school to proceed further with their development and using this English as the medium by which they can develop their personality, their thoughts, they get their knowledge, they build their career, or it is a failure. Since I'm today in charge of the data, I can tell you 1.5 billion learners in the world, they are learning in English. That is the largest group. The next group is only French, which counts with 82 million, then others below. But these examples actually shows that issue. Closer? Should I speak louder or without microphone? Okay, thank you very much for listening to me, because you're answering my question. We see that issue of the mastering the learning and education in mother tongue becoming #1 issue before they switch to medium of instruction in English. I do remember when I met first time the big computer mainframe. It was 1975, which was bigger than this meeting hall. And they let me to ask, I was a child in the school, but they let me to ask question. And I said, any question? Yes, any question. They can teach anything. Now they can decide anything in your life. I said, okay, can you help me to learn English? Because at that time I was having no English. I don't think I'm having still full English, but British Council trusts me to chair the session. And the machine asked me just few questions, and after that said, you are not smart learner. I said, why? You have around 18,000 Russian words in your vocabulary, and you have only 250 words in English vocabulary. And how do you want to say the same three things as you're saying in Russian in English? First, you learn words. And that time, that was a major principle in Soviet schools, where English taught like, you know more words, English words, then you will be speaking freely. And by the time when I arrived to UNESCO for the work, I had many English words, but I was not able to use them to say anything. But I was saying, yes, I understand this word, this one, this word, this word. But gluing was not. And I think this is exactly example what Professor given us from Odisha. There is people using English as a goddess. I like it. I think for my next UK visa, I have to go there and put some flowers. But I would like all of you to think through what Professor said and give your reflections, brief comments, and questions. I think we have something like 10 minutes. Am I correct? 15 minutes. I said 10 minutes, you didn't respond. 10. Okay. Any questions?
This is Geeta Dorerajan.
You may have to speak to the microphone.
Yeah, I am using the mic. Professor Mohanty, this is something about, you had stated something about English being, that we can see it as a healer language. Now, in the context of multilingual, mother tongue-based education, which NMRC sees as a formula for maybe some groups of students, what would the role of this healer language be? How would you see English? Not as a killer language, but as a healing language. I mean, a little more of detail on that we thought would help.
Thank you. Would you mind to introduce yourself?
If I have
to
understood you clearly, you want me to comment on how can English play not the role as a killer language. That's probably what I was trying to address towards the end when I said it can be a healer language, not a killer language. See, the killer language tag comes to English from two counts. One, it is learned subtractively by children and by people who learn a language. And second, wherever English has expanded to, it has adversely affected the linguistic diversity of the country. That's why I said that it is necessary to align English to the multilingual social reality of many societies. You know, the whole dominance that Minati was talking about, what is needed is more egalitarian perception and treatment of languages, and policies which would not provide the kind of importance that is now given to some languages over others. That is the first step. And then the second one, which I said that, and I think in the last Language and Development Conference in Cape Town, that was my address about, locating English in the multilingual education framework. If English is developed, there is nothing against English. A multilingual society should have the openness to accept English, or for that matter, any other language. But English has to be founded on strong mother tongue development. Many of the people of my generation in India, Professor Patnaik being senior, and me, and perhaps even some people who are younger to us, we are all educated in our mother tongue. English was not a language which was taught to us right from the beginning. I learned English from grade 6 onwards as a subject, not as a medium of instruction. But that enabled me to go into higher education, university level education in English. And that probably is the model we need to go back to. Develop mother tongue of children, provide education in mother tongue as the medium of instruction, and then once children develop mother tongue to a sufficient level of competence, bring in English, or for that matter, any other language. So, mother tongue based multilingual education is the framework that is necessary.
Thank you. If you ask shorter question, professor will answer you shorter. I can collect another question. Sorry, I promised to this side. Let me keep it equality. No?
Sir, this is Hiral Karnawat.
Introduce yourself.
Yeah, this is Hiral Karnawat from Hyderabad. Just I want to know actually what is making people crazy to send their children to poor quality English medium school. Only this thing, sir. Actually, what is the reason behind this?
Well, one has to look at, I touched on that issue when I talked about the agency. Earlier when Robert Phillipson talked about expansion of English, he talked about a engineered process, a design by some organizations in the world, and particularly the English-speaking countries, to spread English for various other benefits and for other purposes. I think over the years, what has happened is the choice of English has become more internal to different societies, primarily because the language is now linked to economic prosperity, better opportunities, and all that. So the power of English actually accrues to it from the economic benefits, the social priority, and the policy priority in different countries. And the lower economic strata people do not want to be left behind. And that's the idea for the English goddess. One of the Dalit students of Jawaharlal Nehru University, my university, he left this. He was inspired by the Dalit philosophy and wanted to do something for the Dalit people, for their emancipation, and he thought English was the language for that kind of emancipation. And he designed, I do not know if you saw the slide very well, he designed the statue of the goddess of English modeled after the Statue of Liberty, except that the goddess was holding a pen and a book in English and putting on a hat as an indicator of the kind of emancipatory consequences of learning English. So the popular belief that has continued in many, not just in India, but many of the Asian and African countries, now contribute to that. Therefore, I think it has become more invisible agent, something which is internal to the societies, to the people, and that is why I called it the ghost of English now, which is controlling the societies to incite them to learn more of English.
Yeah. Thank you. One more question. And I don't know, should I ask people who can ask questions, they should be not only from India?
Yeah, Zubair, so I will just go over the border to Pakistan. So I am Zubair Torwali from Swat, Pakistan. I have been educating mother tongue literacy, mother tongue based education in Swat areas in the northern Pakistan area. There are so many languages over there. But when we really educate for inclusion of mother tongue in education, either in the public sector or in the private sector, the parents, they come up with the demand to teach to their children only English. And as you said, English is a language of development and power and all economic opportunities and all these things. But still we believe that education through mother tongue is better than in any other alien language. But does there exist any model, empirical model, where we can say that, okay, education through mother tongue is more effective than learning a language directly, an alien language directly? Did I make sense?
Yeah. Are you from Pakistan? Did you say Pakistan? Or?
Pakistan.
Yeah. Okay. I do not know if Professor Tariq Rahman is here. He has spoken of the apartheid that English education is bringing to many societies. And quite a number of researchers in Pakistan have talked about the adverse effects, including Professor Coleman here in his report, adverse effects of English medium education on children's academic achievement. I think I agree with the comments and observations.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I have there 3 pairs of eyes which says shut the questions, because you can ask these questions from Professor. He's going to be here until the end of the conference, no? You're not flying out. It's not like me. You will not see me today afternoon, but tomorrow I'll be here. I want just to, first of all, to call your attention that the issue of the mother tongue or home language start as a language of instruction. It's always debated. It's always debated in many countries, in many societies. It was many experiments done. But more we discuss, more we have a proof that the start, if you speak with your mother from your early age in that language, and your education learning will continue on that, then you would be able to change to the second and third language easily. And usually when people just to change to one language, then the third and fourth language is coming very much easily. And they master better. If they have a good scores in their own languages, then those kind of learning, say, skills goes for the second language as well. And regarding that, UNESCO actually celebrates every year on 21st February, International Mother Language Day. And that is especially, we keep promoting that the issue of the languages, it is not only for using for economics, only for some kind of revenue or benefit. It's actually your own use. We've been debating with Professor yesterday. I was saying my younger daughter, she started putting the PIN code to iPad before she starts speaking. And I said, how now you will explain that the language is actually basis for thinking? That means she starts thinking without able to explain. And that is another, say, debate for today's world, when we are start having a new evidences where the language mastering, it is not only that language what we understand. There is many other aspects of the languages which not necessarily should be written or spoken, but it should be by sign. This year, International Mother Language Day had been devoted for inclusive education, inclusive language education. for my surprise, being in UNESCO for many years, I never thought that the sign language actually also different in different languages. I was always thinking, if you have a sign language mastered like in UK, then you can come and speak freely in the same sign language to the Hindu-speaking people, which was not the case. And there is many other issues where actually many people are not able to benefit from the first things learning because of the language barriers. And the language barriers, when it comes to the mother tongue, also goes beyond that. There is the people who are actually not able to use their own mother tongue for different reasons. But we always have to keep thinking about that, and the examples from Orissa are tremendous. UNESCO had a study last year through 7 districts out of 8 districts of Orissa, why out-of-school children not coming back to school. There is a right to education in India, which say every child from 6 to 14 must to go for the free, compulsory elementary education. Why they're not coming? We ask, there is a provision where out-of-school children, in order to join, to be mainstreamed to school, they have to go through the special training. And what we discover actually in special training, most of the special training are not considering the tribal areas or tribal children's own language. That's why they come, they fail already through the special training. That's why they don't even reach the school. Or if they pass the special training, in the school, the language, let's say, enabling environment is not up for them. They don't have the reading materials. They have to have bigger letters, even on the grade 7, if they join on that age. But textbooks are not longer available in the bigger scripts because they're done only for the primary school. So these issues, actually the most issues for which this conference, I think, have to look. And thank you very much, sir, for very inspirational, provocative, and very, say, interesting findings. And again, thank you very much for introducing another Indian god. I keep counting how many now I know after 4 years, but it seems it's countless. And I would like to ask all of you to give a round applause for Professor. And just a few words about the chairing the session. I felt myself like a pilot of the plane, where pilots usually has a time to speak at the beginning, saying, we are taking off, our journey will be 45 minutes, fasten your seat belts, and there is a professor, enjoy. But now there is a new duty for this pilot. I should give the token for the nice speech to professor. I don't know what is inside. He doesn't know what is inside. That's why please take this photo. If something else... And my last word about professor. He is a tremendous fellow, very tremendous fellow. By all his life, he keeps proving that language and English is not dangerous, only if you use properly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Mohanty, and thank you very much to our pilot, Alisher.